We thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Si. I come from Si Essassani. How may I assist you with your questions and dialogue today?
Yeah, I just want to obviously my name's Tim. I'm just getting used to familiar with your energies. I'm used to your society. Just want to get familiar with yours. What's your role and what do you play in your society?
I am a first contact specialist. I primarily work here with the channel at this current time, but I have worked with different beings on your planet from time to time. You could say that I am working to assist in the changes on your planet to prepare those that are ready and willing to be able to work in correlation with our energies and many of the other hybrid races, you could say, to bring forward this new and upcoming change on your planet. So, in other words, I am assisting those to transform different belief systems, different ideas, to be in more alignment with their true authentic nature so they can then go ahead and shift to the parallel earth that is most, you could say, vibrationally compatible with their current theme or journey.
Oh, that's good. At least we have similar excitements, and probably be easier for us to connect on those levels. Is there anything you want to say to start with?
Yes, it is my pleasure to be able to have this conversation with you. This is not the first time we've had these conversations. You may not be necessarily familiar with the energy at hand, but we have had some interactions before through your dream state, as well as you could say in a different parallel reality where we have shared different ideas, different themes. So this is not our first interaction. So it is very nice to connect with you once again.
Oh, okay. I've had a lot of dreams about extraterrestrials and UFOs, but maybe not you in particular that I can recall right this moment. What other parallel realities were we connecting in, or what were the themes we're exploring?
You could say that we were working together to build a ship in one of the realities. We were in what you would call the gray civilization together, and we shared a role in creating different types of technology that many of our civilization we were in the midst of, you could say, transforming, and we were using different tools to be able to assist those that are, you could say, or were preparing for the shift and the split in the energies that were available. So this particular ship was used to transport different materials from point A to point B, as well as many different beings at that time. So we were connecting during this period of time. And you may not be completely familiar with this at this current time, but it is something that we did briefly share together.
Oh, now you mention it, I can remember parts of it, or memory's a funny thing, but I can perceive parts of that as you
Well,
talk about it.
yes, it is not necessarily relevant currently in your reality because this particular reality, you are using your abilities and your skills to be able to assist the collective to prepare for, you could say, open contact, the change in the vibration of the planet in terms of how individuals are choosing to, you could say, live their life. So it's not really relevant right now, currently, but it is just something that I figured I would share so that you are a little bit more familiar with the energies that are present currently.
Okay, I appreciate that. Is that all you want to touch on?
At this point, yes, we can continue along the journey. And if there are other ideas that we will share, then we will absolutely bring them forward to discuss things further.
Okay. Well, I'll talk about some experiences I've had recently. The other night, I was at the back of work at the hospital. I was out the back, and then I was looking in the sky, and I knew that there was something going to happen. And I looked up, and then a big light shot across. What was that little light?
This was the Orion. This was the Orion civilization that was peering into your reality. It was allowing you to become familiar with the vibration of that particular ship. So they were just saying hello to you, just welcoming you.
Were they the Draconian energy?
Not that we can detect at this time, but there may be some correlation, there may be some connections, but not significant enough that we can come forward and say that it absolutely was.
Okay, so at that moment, this is what I want to talk about as not just that experience, but I knew before I even looked up that I was going to see something. And so it makes me question the influence we have on our reality. And was that event already happening and I perceived it, or was because I changed my energy, that's why I perceived it,
Well, you
or
were
both?
becoming aware by tapping into the energy that was surrounding you, you could say. So you were tapping into the collective energy from this particular ship, from that particular civilization. So by tapping into that, you were able to, you could say, foresee that it was going to happen around you. So you could say that not necessarily you attracted it, but you were tapping into something that was in already existence. So the moment was already happening before it actually happened. So you were simply tapping into that.
And is that why I was feeling those Orion energies before like moments before it happens, like for the last hour, or it was the momentum was building up more and more?
Yes, because you were tapping into the collective energy of this particular civilization. So we would say to you that you were connecting to it. It was coming forward to you to test you in a way to see where you were at vibrationally, if you were able to pick up the energies that they were presenting to you. And once you were able to pick up on what was already occurring at that point, then you were able to tap into that vibration. And from thence forward, when you were looking up into the sky, you could say this is when you were able to peer into the light that they were shining, their ship, in other words.
Yeah, well, I'm very familiar with that Orion energy, so it's a very easy one for me to tap into. So where were those entities from? Like obviously Orion, but what type of race were they?
One moment while we are tapping into the energy to see what is available. We are detecting a mix of different energies currently, but we are detecting that there is what you would know as the avions. They were present in this particular ship. The other civilization, you could say, the other breed, however you want to call it, they are not allowing themselves to be shown at this time. So it is something that they are telling you to explore more by simply connecting to this particular memory in which you had at that time. You can then start to attract more occurrences such as this, and their connection will be able to show themselves to you in various different ways.
Okay, that seems enjoyable. Yeah, I can do that.
We
And
can say
so,
to you there are many
yes.
ways in which you can bring this forward. If you are able to use some sort of creative outlet, you can start to either A, write a story, and when you are tapping into the story mode, you are actually tapping into the imagination aspect that is connected to this particular civilization. So you're able to connect and you are able to create from this point, and from there you'll be able to see more closely, more accurately these particular beings that were in on that ship.
So when you mean write stories, like I can connect into lots of parts of myself are in that constellation, and they all have different roles. Are you talking about a narrative of that?
You could say that, yes, by simply allowing yourself to gain access to that vibration when you are, you could say, in a meditative state, if this is easiest for you to connect to the memory. When you are in that memory, you are simply in that vibration. When you are in that vibration, from there forward, you can start to write. And you will write what comes to you. It is almost like automatic writing in a way, because you are simply allowing the energies to be accessed and simply allow your imagination to run forward. And when you are tapping into this imagination, you are actually tapping into this particular memory that has this particular civilization in it from this forward, it'll allow themselves to be more, you could say, familiar with you. You will be more familiar with the energy.
Okay, thank you for your advice. That'll be a fun thing to do. I'll explore that.
Yes.
And so I'll talk about the next UFO experience, which is the night after, last night actually. And then I went out to do some chanting last night with a group of people, and then I come back, and then I walk out into the veranda, and then the big explosion in the sky happened, and lit up the whole sky, and then shot down into the earth. And it was, even for mine, like I've seen thousands of UFOs. This thing was out of control. And then so that seemed like a Lyran craft or something like that. Is that what that craft was, or whatever that energy was?
We are detecting very strong draconian energy. They do
Oh,
like to make themselves known very loud, you could say, or very,
yes.
very well pronounced is the way that we can say it. So this particular interaction that you had was from this particular civilization. They were simply just saying hello. There wasn't a reason or cause for the explosion necessarily. They just wanted their presence to be known by you at that time. Were you experiencing any sensations in the body beforehand, or any type of interactions with any particular person that may have caused you to feel a certain way, and that they themselves were communicating with you to remember to stay aware of certain situations? Is this possible?
Yeah. Well, I went out with one of my lady friends just before it, and then I come home, and I think I was thinking about her, and sort of just keeping on top of things with her about keeping my own self, not preservations, but keeping my own self love, I guess, in that whole situation. And it was a good night and all that. It wasn't anything negative. And then that's when that happened. I was on the veranda. But I have been channeling those draconian energies quite heavily lately, so I don't know if it was the momentum building up to that, or what actually triggered that event.
It was a
But
little bit of both. You could say that the energy was building as a momentum, but also they were simply connecting with you by making you aware of the situation. So this is what we are getting from them specifically. They are saying that they were simply allowing their presence to be known, but they wanted you to really hone in on the energies.
so are we talking about that situation when I was thinking about that energy and all that sort of that part of the energy about myself and connecting with others, or in particular that lady friend?
In particular, it was the lady friend, but it also had to do with yourself, because there is a power that you carry inside of your heart, inside of your spirit, you could say, that they want you to remember this. They want you to always remember this, no matter what situation that might be occurring around you. This is your center. They are showing us that this is your center. This is where they primarily want you to be, because they say to stand tall and erect, your back straight, and become more aware of the power that lies within you. And as you continue to connect to these energies, you will start to feel this more and more as the day goes by, because you will start to understand yourself. Because as you are connecting with these beings, they are showing you, yes, different aspects of yourself, but you will start to understand that it is, and we use this analogy a lot. This is much like the engine, you could say, and all the wheels turning to make this particular engine go. They are part of this. This is a major part of the center of you could say. So as you continue to connect, they will themselves show up more and more frequently, especially when they want you to remember that center point inside of yourself.
Yeah, I know the energy well. I know exactly what they're talking about. We are just talking about it before we came into this training session. It's a very assertive and strong energy, uh, but it's very centered.
Yes, and it's assertive in a sense, but that might not be the correct word to use. It is very balanced, not necessarily mean or anything of that nature, more or less just very strong. Very, you could say the word terminology in your language could be very masculine. This might be a good terminology to use. Very strong, a lot of power lies in this particular connection. Very strong.
Yeah, well, that is my personality. So I can see where they're saying that's a part of my personality and to just keep going with it. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, to remember this, because when you have things that might come up for you inside of your mind, inside of your heart, and we're not saying that it was necessarily a bad thing that you were experiencing, but they were just simply reminding you. So at any given moment, in any time where you seem to, you could say, forget in a way how powerful as a being that you truly are and how connected you truly are, they will simply remind you of this because they want you to stay in the center. They want you to continue along this journey, and they will, again, show themselves more often to you as you progress in your own journey. Because different aspects you will start to notice, as you have mentioned, different aspects of yourself is certainly connected to this particular civilization, and it will be shown in multitude of ways.
Yeah, okay, I appreciate that because I do have both sides, that very draconian side, but I also have that very soft side. And I guess I'm
Yes.
building the bridge in between the two.
They
And
are saying to balance this out. This would be a very strong tool for you to have. Because when you are strong in your center, but you also have this feminine approach, this lighter energy, you could say softer energy is the terminology that you use. This allows you to be more in the flow state. So this is a very good balance of the masculine and the feminine. And we have spoke about this previously, where the masculine is about action, taking action, and the feminine is about being in the flow. Because you can simply be in the flow and still take action. And this is very strong points of your personality structure that you have. So when you are tapping into both energies and you are remaining in this balanced state, this can carry you a long way.
yeah, well, people do say that about my personality. They say I'm like a hippie cross a drill sergeant, which is, I guess, the both extremes what you're talking about. So yeah, I appreciate their input. Is that all they want to say on the subject?
One moment while we are seeing if there is anything else they have to share with you. We are seeing multitude of images right now, and we're not sure if you are familiar with the way that some of these beings look that are around you. Are you familiar with their stature of how they appear?
The Draconians? Yes.
Specifically the ones that you have been connecting with. Not
Yes.
necessarily the civilization in general, but the ones that you have been connecting with.
Yes, I do. I do know their energy and their physicality, I guess. They're not very
Okay.
physical.
So this is what they are primarily showing us, and as we continue along this session, they may have more things to share, but currently right now, this is the major point they are making with this interaction that you have had in terms of the explosion that lit up the sky.
Okay, so they're saying to be strong, basically.
Be strong, be centered, and remind yourself of the connection that you share. Because when you tap into this connection, it will carry you through different processes, different themes, you could say, and your reality. So, yes,
Okay, I appreciate that. And then just going into the fact that I just see like these UFOs everywhere and things of that nature, it brings me to influence on reality. And so when I was a bit younger, in my 20s, I used to take people out in the bush or whatever, and then I'd show them lots of UFOs. And obviously, it's a co-creation on all our behalfs. But in saying that, then obviously my reality of what's perceivable and believable and known influences other people's reality. So I'm trying to understand the correlation between influencing people's reality and co-creating other people's realities.
yes. So, you are asking us exactly how this has worked for you in terms of your current reality from when you were younger up until now. Is this the question that you are asking?
I guess so, because if we talk about an experience, then it's probably a bit more free-flowing.
Yes. So, in other words, we will be more than happy to explain this to you. So, there are different individuals that you may have had agreements with that, yes, you could say you have influenced their reality in a way. But remember that when you are in your own reality and you focus on certain things in your reality, those things become more magnified. So then you attract more of that type of energy, which, yes, can influence others' reality around you, but also their own process for their own journey is based on how they interact with that experience. So we could give you an example of what we mean. Say you have a friend and you notice the friend may be out of alignment. And this is, of course, is just an example. And this particular friend is so out of alignment, but you notice this, but you do not notice the things that make them, you could say, in alignment. And the more you focus on that, the more you notice that your friend is exhibiting those behaviors. And they themselves might be energetically, you could say, in tune to these frequencies, and they may not be fully aware that they are, and then they are implementing this inside of their reality. And as you go along your journey and as they go along their journey, they choose not to make a change, but eventually they get to a place where you could say that they hit a rock bottom where they have no choice but to change. So in a way, yes, you were influencing their reality based on what you were perceiving and your reality and how you handle this experience inside of yourself. But not only that, you influence their reality because now they are in a place where they are keep continuously to choose something that is out of alignment, and then get to a point where they need to make a choice. Okay, do I want to continue along this journey, or do I want to make a change? And this may not be necessarily something that might be conscious of theirs. This might be happening on what you call a subconscious level, but eventually they may make the choice to change. Otherwise, they'll get into a place where they are in a, you could say, tight space where they have no choice but to change. And in a way, you have influenced their reality in that sort of way. But again, every reality in which you experience your own reality based on what you choose to perceive in any given situation is how you're going to, you could say, play out your reality. So if you choose to see this particular individual as not necessarily always out of alignment, but you choose to see the things that make them in alignment, then they will start exhibiting more of these behaviors in their reality that you could say is more in alignment. Not necessarily, in most cases, this happens, but not always. They may choose to continue along the journey of doing things that make them out of alignment, but your energy and the way that you are perceiving them can help shift the energies in more of a favorable state for your reality and their own reality.
Yeah, so by in that example, by perceiving the energies of what you want to see, then they'll show up in that way more probable.
Yes, it is very simple like this as well in any given situation. But you're right, you do have certain agreements that not necessarily doesn't always exhibit these behaviors or these correlations. They may be a little bit different. So, but this is not necessarily always true. This happens in a rare case, you could say, where they are simply doing what they need to do, and you are, you could say, co-creating it based on an agreement, and they do not have the ability to necessarily shift it based on your perception.
Yeah, and I guess it's just up to me if I want to experience that or not, and I could just always walk away and do something else. So even if that agreement is held, I still always have that free will not to experience that.
Yes, this is true.
Okay, so going back onto the UFOs and the influence of realities and that co-creation, the example you just gave. So people do these CE5s and they sit outside and they look into the sky all night and wait for, I guess they culminate energies to attract to see UFOs or things of this nature. Yet I just sort of walk out and see them all the time. So I'm wondering how I could integrate this for other people and give them basically a bit of what I have.
Well, there are a couple parts to this we will be happy to explain to you. So, not every single person is going to see a ship, and it may not be relevant for them to see a physical ship. They may not necessarily need to. They may need to see things more on what you say an astral level. So becoming familiar with different vibrations for their own, you could say, experience, their own interactions. It may not necessarily be part of their theme, and they may be excited by the idea, but they may just be excited for a different purpose, a different reason. And then there's also the idea that we can share with you when they do happen to experience these CE5s. We could say the best way for them to prepare themselves to be open and ready to receive any interactions with any type of ships nearby would be simply to be in the allowing state. Because many times humans want to place different, you could say, things that happen in their mind and try to connect the dots, try to overanalyze, try to set up all of these expectations. And these expectations actually create this resistance to the flow. And when there's a resistance to the flow, they will then actually transform their reality so they do not see a ship, because they are placing so much expectation and so much emotional momentum behind it that when they don't see it, they become disappointed. And it becomes almost a cycle for them. But they can simply go out and allow themselves to not necessarily hold an expectation, but just be open, ready, and willing to experience these types of interactions. Another idea is some individuals might be full of fear. We will not come towards an individual or individuals that have a large amount of fear, because this will cause an emotional shock to the system. We do not want to cause this in any person, because in a way this can cause harm to them, or maybe even push them so far out of being ready for contact because of their fear that they have inside of themselves. So this is another aspect. So if you would like to influence or assist others to be able to be open and willing to receive transmissions, you could say from physical ships, by simply speaking to them about what they feel about seeing a ship. Are they fearful? If there was a ship close by, 50 feet away, would this scare them? And if so, what can we do to minimize these beliefs? What beliefs are they carrying that is allowing them to experience the sensation of fear? And this is just one thing that you can speak to them about, but the other one is just to not have expectations, be in the state of flow. Because you are able to be in the state of flow yourself, this allows ships to come in your reality more frequently. And because you have agreements with different civilizations that have given them permission to align in the physical reality, so you are able to see them, you are able to perceive them. Sometimes there are ships where people cannot see them physically with the eyes, but they are there, they are present, they might feel them, they might know that they're there, they might be able to, you could say, receive some type of communication even, but they may not be able to physically see them with their eyes.
So that Draconian ship, like obviously there was a massive lit up the whole sky last night. Was I the only person who's seen that?
You and a few others, not too many, were in, you could say, this visionary field of this. So there were some, we're not going to say there was no other ones, but there were few people that had seen this.
So the Draconians knew it was going to affect them as well?
Yes, they were aware that some individuals were going to be able to perceive this.
And so what, we all had a co-agreement to see that, obviously.
This is correct. This is correct. These individuals were in that same, you could say, vibrational frequency to be able to have this type of interaction.
So the Draconians, sorry if I'm getting into too many details, but it's for my discernment, understanding this to understand the co-creation of realities. So when that happened, they were primarily doing it for me, but also was it a side effect, those people seeing it?
Well, each individual have their own experience. So there were reasons why they were able to see it for their own particular, you could say, experience, but yours specifically, this was the reason behind the experience.
Okay, no worries. That makes sense because of the energies. Yeah, I totally see that now. Okay, and because I have this ability to bypass this human system to see all these things, I understand that you're saying about checking in with other people's belief systems and things of that nature is probably the more direct way to help people see them.
Yes, and being in the state of allowance, being in the flow, not having these expectations, as we mentioned. So this would be primarily the best way for you to help them. because many people believe that they are not fearful. Their mind tells them that they are not afraid. But the fear is actually very deep inside of them. They may have had interactions with various beings that they may not remember. And during a childhood, they may have had a fear or some type of traumatic experience in their own mind. And then they have simply blocked out those memories or they were wiped clean. So then now, when they experience these interactions, they feel that they're going to be ready for this physical interaction, but they don't necessarily know that they actually have a deep rooted fear. And when they have these interactions, this deep-rooted fear will surface for them. They will have the memories of when they were, you could say, having a scary type of experience in their own words. And then this particular energy, they will feel that. They will feel that same sense of terror that they once felt before. So they don't want to necessarily cause, and we don't want to necessarily cause this type of interaction for anyone that may not be ready to be able to experience this. We will speak briefly about something we will share about the channel. Most recently, in her reality, she had an experience where she had been asking for physical contact, more physical contact. And we had shown ourselves to her, and this was a physical interaction. So we were not in a ship. We were simply standing on the side of the road for about a minute, you could say, of your time. And during the experience, the channel did feel a sense of intense energies from surfacing from a childhood memory of being and interacting with us that was quite terrifying for her. Now, she was in a place vibrationally where she was able to ground these energies and understand what was occurring for herself. But for someone that may not necessarily be accustomed to our energies or to other, you could say, extraterrestrial energies in that sort of way, may not be able to handle it the way that the channel handled it, because they may actually cause themselves to have a psychotic shock. And this does occur many times, and it has previously occurred for individuals. So we just wanted to share that little snippet about this topic that we are discussing.
Yes, I could understand that. My girlfriend, she has issues like that. Like, she remembers being scared of a predator in the bush, like when she was younger, and all sorts of things. And I think it does tie into what you're talking about when I've discussed it with her. Because when I actually ask her, and she has this fear of the dark and fear of these things, it does seem to come from some sort of interaction like that, because she can't put a finger on it, but her egoic mind puts it to something like an alien in a movie like Predator or something like this.
Yes, and as she continues along her journey, when she becomes more accustomed to different types of energy, she can try what the channel is doing. She can try channeling, she can try automatic writing when she feels ready. And as she does this, these energies will start to, you could say, decrease, and they will start to become more lighter, and she will start to understand who she is and the interactions that she has had. And this way there, the confidence will build inside of her, and she will not feel the fear that she has felt.
Well, even with me, like, I have a lot of these extraterrestrial experiences in my life, but I don't know. I'm pretty sure if a Draco turned up at my doorstep, I would go into psychic shock, and I can be quite realistic about that. Yes. All right. Thank you for that.
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to talk about the sacred sites and the geometry and things of that nature, which you obviously know I'm getting into a bit more lately, and working with these people in Australia about these different projects and these hieroglyphs that are on this 33 parallel that I live on. Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Can you repeat what you had said, please?
Okay, so I live on the 33 parallel, south parallel of the Earth, and along this is sacred sites and structures.
Yes.
Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay, so up the road there's these Egyptian hieroglyphs. Obviously I live in Australia, which doesn't have any Egyptian past at all, and I sort of come back and looked after these hieroglyphs for quite some time. And now that I'm in contact with some people that are doing all these experiments on them and so forth, So I'm going to be working with joining the dots of these civilizations that have come and done these things. Do you know the story behind those hieroglyphs?
One moment. We can share something with you that we have detected while you were describing this current finding in your physical location. So we have detected that you simply have shifted things in your reality in such a way where you literally grabbed pieces of, you could say, of a particular reality which you played a part in at some time. You could say a parallel life, you could say a past life, however you want to put it. And you have literally taken this and placed this into your awareness, into your current physical reality, in your current physical location. And this particular journey that you are working on, this project that you say, and your connection with this, as you continue along this process of, you could say, connecting the dots, becoming more aware of the civilization or these particular hieroglyphics, as you call them, you will start to understand different aspects of your connections. This particular, you could say, where this comes from, this was partially, again, you shifted things from one particular reality to the next into your current role. So this particular journey, we can go back to this at a later time, but this is what we will share with you at this current moment about this. But we would like you to start to, you could say, place the intention out there to be able to connect to the vibrations of this particular area. In this particular area, these findings, when you start to connect to that vibration, you will start to understand things and you will start to decode them in such a way. Because the energy that's going to be coming from this area, from this particular structures that you call them, these particular structures, you will start to see a code almost. You will be able to detect the vibration, the frequency. Once you're able to do that, you could say energetically, you can start to decipher what these particular findings mean. And this is something that we'll share with you. But you can ask this at a later time, and we will be happy to go in more depth about the history behind this. But right now, we want you to start to use this as a tool to be able to connect to this, because this is going to be a finding of a different part of yourself, a different parallel reality that you could say, in which you were partially correlated with the creation of these.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Um, So yeah, I can see the themes. Like obviously, my father's from Egypt, and I'm in Australia for starters. So you can. I was born here, right next to these
Yes.
hieroglyphs. So I can see the themes uh, coming
But you
up.
will also set yourself markers up to, I guess you could say, confirm with yourself that this is actually what is occurring, that this is actually something that you have participated in creating, and you could say another reality. So this is why we say to you, this is a discovery about yourself just as much as it is about where this particular hieroglyphics came from, what did their meaning behind them, why did they show up where they showed up, etc., etc. But again, we will say to you that this was something that you shifted from one reality, parallel reality, into this one, and you were part of the creation of this. So you can start to sit with this vibration more and become more familiar with this. And as you do, you will start to understand things in, you could say, a more in-depth way about the process in terms of where it came from, how it, you could say, has affected your current life, your current reality in many different various ways.
Yeah, well, I can even see it in my life, not just with those hieroglyphs and the time space locale I'm in, but even like my the girlfriend, she's like part Aboriginal, and so she has those indigenous energies, and obviously there's a mix of our energies together. So it's not just those hieroglyphs in general, but it's a whole theme going on, an undercurrent or some sort of theme in my reality.
Yes.
which they're a
So
part of,
this is just
obviously.
one moving part of that, of course, as you are aware of this. This is just one thing, but this is a pretty massive thing to help you in your expansion. You set this up for yourself.
So were you saying I had an involvement in the creation of them? Are you talking about physically creating them, or are you talking about the energies behind them?
Both.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. And then it's not just this goes back to like these Lemurian energies and these Atlantean energies.
Yes.
I feel like this intermix of the two,
Yes.
which,
We will
which
say
is
that. We will confirm that. Yes.
which is like a reflection of other galactic energies going on, um,
Yes.
which are
Different
being.
aspects of yourself. Remember
Yeah.
that you are a multifaceted being. So you can look at yourself kind of sort of like a prism in a way. There are different pieces of you that reflect in different areas of, you could say, your reality in other realities in various different ways. So this is a mere one reflection of that. But you were able to energetically move this into your current physical reality.
So I can actually tangibly play with those energies.
This is correct. Yes, this is what we would like you to do over the course of the next few sessions, and then you can then ask this question again, and we will be happy to dive deeper into this energy with you.
Well, yes, I appreciate that, because obviously today is just really a template to set up what's going to be transpiring next.
Yes.
Okay, cool. And I guess I seem to keep going for these similar formats when I do sessions with people, even though I don't really set out to have any particular questions. But I usually ask about some sort of experience, and then I ask about a dream. And then so the other night I had this dream. I was in looking up at the sky, and I tried connecting to the Draco energy about this, but they're not being so forthcoming. And then I was setting up like this satellite dish, and then I was connecting to this UFO in the sky, and it was just around my local area here. And then I remember being in a swamp and jumping on the back of a helicopter and then leaving. So was that my consciousness setting up a connection with a UFO or
You could
contact?
say that you could say that in some ways. You could say also that the idea of the swamp is partially a connection to the draconian energy. So in a way, when you were placing yourself to look out and to look for a UFO or some type of contact, you are simply setting up the template for your physical reality to be able to have this experience. And the idea that you were in the swamp, you could say, is a connection to this particular energy. So we would say to you that this particular dream had different metaphors, but also in a different level, you could say you were working to set yourself up to be prepared for when this contact does occur. The contact that you are setting up for yourself in this particular dream was one for a larger sighting, you could say, a more closer, in-depth connection.
Yes, it was in daytime, and it was very large, and it was just above me, and it was very clear. Um, so that doesn't surprise me either. So that's maybe a possibility of a future event. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, this is true. Yes.
Then what was
So
the? Sorry, go on.
we can say to you that one idea that you can start to utilize, and we are getting this information from the Draconian civilization. They are saying that when you can take some time, when you have some free time, you can visually start to project yourself to their, you could say, reality, to their civilization, the ones that you speak with quite frequently, the energies that you are familiar with. Start to, you could say, go and astral project, you could say, to them and create a template in this visionary experience of a particular place that you feel most resonant with, and allow them to come to you in this visualization and have these interactions. Speak to them in various levels. Tell them what you are wanting to create. Let them know that you are wanting to have more of these contact experiences if this is what you desire. And this is inviting the energies in. This is something we'll add to the other question you had previously with your question about those having different UFO experiences. One, thing we forgot to mention was that during the experience, they must invite the energy in. They must give permission for the energies to be available for them to be able to see these ships. So we are saying that during your visionary experience, you could start to connect to these, you could say, draconian energies during your visualization and start to request that they show themselves more in your physical reality as much as you are in allowance to let them. So they are speaking to us about these ideas. And by doing this, not only are you connecting to the vibration, but you are having more contact experiences with them as well. So this allows you to open up and go deeper, they are saying, more deeper into your experiences. If this is something that feels good to you, if this is something that feels nice for your experience.
Absolutely. And in that dream, so I understand the swamp because I've had that image with them and I've met some of the Draconians in the swamp, whether they're from Earth or other places, in a lot of astral places. And I guess that means the primordial sort of place, I assume, which is like their energy. It's very primordial.
Yes.
And so the helicopter that took me out, what was the meaning behind that? Because I couldn't even get into the back of the helicopter. I could only like jump on the back of it and hang on.
Simply, you were going on a journey. So you were leaving that particular idea behind. So the idea of being in the swamp, getting on the helicopter allows you to move into, you could say, in a higher perspective, a higher awareness. When you are moving into this higher awareness, this allows you to be able to be more, you could say, in the receiving mode, to have these types of experiences more in depth in your reality. So you could say that was the symbolism behind the chopper, you could say.
Okay, and then just before I left, I looked into a mountain, and the whole mountain was hollow. And when I connected with Draconians, they're not very forthcoming about any of this, but they just said the Earth's not what you think it is. And I know there is hollow parts in the Earth, like that military bases and things like that, but this was like a very local area, and it was sort of all made out of wood, like it was, the whole mountain was nearly fake in some sort of degree. And they were saying to just try and remote view into it. Do you have any perceptions to what I was perceiving or my consciousness was perceiving?
So, what they were meaning when they were speaking about the earth is not what it seems. Not only were they speaking in a physical sense, but also in an energetic sense. So, being, you could say, as we mentioned before, being in a higher perspective, moving upwards into the sky, you were able to perceive this particular hollow place, and they were stating to you that is not what it seems. Yes, it isn't what it seems. There are many different levels to it, not only physically in the earth structure, as you have mentioned, but also energetically. So we are detecting that they are saying to pay very close attention to different vibrations and different frequencies. When you are open and you know that there is a contrast, but you understand the choices that you can make in your physical reality in terms of coming from that contrast and neutral's perspective, this is partially, the energies are not always what they seem to be. By being in a neutral state, this allows you to be able to perceive things more in a contracted perspective, and then you'll be able to choose the frequencies that most match what you are trying to, you could say, manifest in your reality. So this would be partially the purpose behind the experience and what they mean specifically when they say the earth is not what it seems.
And so what do you mean? So just to clarify on what you just said then, the different energies, when you perceive them one-sided or the other, or a bit more contrasting to one side or the other, you're not getting the full information of that reality?
This is correct. When you are in this neutral state, this is the most powerful state that you can be in, because this allows the energies to be able to flow to you, and it allows you to be able to make your best discernment, and it allows you to be able to see more clearly about energies that are surrounding you or that are available for you to be able to perceive.
So when I go into like these little hippie circles sometimes and things like that, occasionally like these draconians come into my energy and they're just like, oh, this is like just way too much to one side, and they're not really taking responsibility, and even though they're being open, they don't seem very grounded. Is that why it's trying to pull me back?
In a way, yes, they are attempting to get you centered in a neutral space So when you are moving more towards one direction over the other direction, they are saying that it makes you, you could say, vulnerable in some ways. And this is their words, not ours, of course. But they are saying this places you more in a vulnerable state. But when you are at neutral, then you are able to perceive and see things for what they truly are.
So they're like, obviously they're my guides, so they're just guiding me.
Yes. Yes, this is correct. But they
Okay.
weren't very forthcoming with the information because they wanted you to sit with it longer. They wanted you to, you could say, figure out the puzzle. They are showing us a puzzle. And puzzle meaning one of those puzzles that you have to take apart to put back together to figure out which direction this part of the puzzle goes and that part puzzle of the goes. And this is what they are showing us. So we are saying that they are stating that they wanted you to sit with it longer to try to, you could say, assemble the pieces that would make most sense to you. But this is primarily what they meant by their explanation.
Yeah, they're not very forthcoming generally. They just give me very small bits of information, and so that leads me because that leads me to the next part. Obviously, when I just want to talk about channeling before we finish in general, because it's
Yes.
probably a good thing to bring up as we're going to be doing many more of these sessions in general. With the information that you perceive and that you're relaying to me, so to speak, where are the limitations on that?
What do you mean by that question? You mean the limitation as far as how much we can share with you? Is this what you mean?
Sure, because obviously, I can't just ask you anything. You just hand it on a plate, and if someone else asks you the same question I do, you're going to give them a different answer due to their information and what
Yes.
their energetic momentum is, and so forth.
Well, we don't really necessarily have a limitation as far as what the information can be that we provide. We simply move with the energy that's available to us. So if you ask a specific question about one of your draconian counterparts or guides, and the information is given to us and we are able to access the information, then we are able to provide the information. The channel doesn't necessarily have limitations as far as connecting with these beings. She does have counterpart in the civilization as well as some, you could say, friends from the civilization that have come forward to connect with her in various times. Most recently, since the agreement was already made between you and the channel, there were a few that have already stepped forward and that are working with her energy. So you could say that they are preparing her for different interactions for your particular sessions primarily, but also for her own sessions in terms of her own connections galactically and her own evolution.
In some co-creation, is that what you mean?
Yes, but I mean, what I mean by this is your agreement to allow the sessions to continue. This allows the channel to be able to develop a, you could say, channeling connection with some of your guides. So the information that I provide, or if they choose to step forward, the information that is provided is able to come in an easier flowing way. Because if you sit with a channel that is not, you could say, energetically prepared to handle that type of energy, that strong type of energy, then the information that comes through may not necessarily be coming through at 100%. There will only be bits and pieces and will be filtered from what you call the ego, but also through another guide. So we are preparing the channel to be able to allow the answers to your questions and her to be able to tap into this energy from the draconian civilization. So she's able to bring forward messages to you based on your questions. So we don't really have necessary limitations, but if there is a question and the energy is not available, then we may have to come back to it and revisit that at another time. But at this time, we do not foresee any, you could say, challenges with connections as far as the channeling goes.
So there is no like given limitation. It's only based basically on what I can perceive and ask you, and there's no limitations on my higher self can only obviously hold back or only show you certain things.
Yes. So whatever you feel most resonant with when you ask the questions, depending on where you're at vibrationally, the information becomes available. So
So, okay,
we
okay,
don't
sorry,
we
go
don't
ahead.
necessarily stick out limitations. We don't describe any certain limitation as we feel restrictions does not allow the energy to flow. If we are not necessarily fully understanding your question, maybe
Yes, I understand. So, like, if I lose something, can you help me find it?
we can certainly give you the information that's available, yes, if we
Okay,
are able to
well,
tap into this particular vibration.
since our session's really coming to an end, like I lost like half an ounce of DMT in my house about a year ago, and now just for whatever reason, I'm either hiding it from myself or I can't find it, and I'd like to get it, but it's just disappeared, and I don't know why I'd be hiding it from myself.
We are seeing two possibilities here. Do you have some type of floorboard that, not necessarily floorboard like the floor you walk on, we're not using the right terminology, but they are, you could say, ventilation system maybe that is connected to the wall that is near the floor, perhaps at the bottom of the wall? Do you have any type of structure like that in your home?
Mm, I do, but I wouldn't have opened like it just it's a unit, so I've only got one, and it drops straight down into other units, and I've only just discovered that in the last 6 months, not when I originally lost it.
Yes. So we could say to you that there's a possibility that it might be we are seeing a certain image that we are not sure exactly what the terminology would be used, but we will physically describe it to you. There are two possibilities here. We are detecting two possibilities. One is that it is a long rectangular, almost like a cube shaped 3D type thing. And is it in a small plastic baggie with a ziplock?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yes, so we are seeing that in a long rectangle shaped type of box that it looks to us as if it is somewhat of a vent of some kind. It looks like it is in there and it's been there for some time. There is dust on that has accumulated on it. There is also the possibility that this may not necessarily be in your home. You may have forgotten that you may have taken it somewhere, and there in this particular place might be where it is. This is another possibility, but this is where we are seeing that it was last.
Okay. Yeah. Well, certainly forgotten where I put it. I feel like I put it in a safe place, and now I've forgotten where that safe place was. That's what it feels like to me. So I've really been digging deep my consciousness to find it. So it may not even be in my house.
Yes, this is correct. Now, what you can do if you would like is allow yourself to connect to the memory of the last time that you had it in your possession, that you remember that you had it in your possession. Connect to the energy of the memory of it energetically, and then allow yourself to go into different parts of the house, specifically close your eyes and listen, speak to it. It has a vibration, it can speak to you. Allow yourself to ask it, where are you? Ask it basic questions. Are you near a particular color? Are you near something that is black? Are you near something that is green? Are you near a window? Basic questions. And then you will start to hear a response. If you allow it, of course, you must be in a certain state of mind. You must allow the energies to flow to you at a centered state. When you are there, simply listen. The first impulse that you get from the experience, write it down. You may notice that there may be a certain theme that may point you in the direction of where it is located.
Okay, I appreciate that. I guess it'll be a fun game to play anyway, so I
Yes,
haven't
make
got
it
it.
exciting because when you're excited, you're in the flow. And when you're in the flow, that's when you attract things that go.
Well, I've let go of it because I've already lost it, so I can only get it back. Um, so yeah, I'll play the game and I'll let you know how I go next time we speak, and I'll tell you my findings. All right.
Yes, at this time, we will now allow the channel to return back to her natural state. We send our unconditional love to you.
Likewise, much love. Speak soon.
Hello. Oh, how was that?
That was good. Yeah, it was good to start understanding her energy and where we're sort of going to go with it all. How was it for you?
Yes, wonderful. It was good. It was good. It was really it was actually really peaceful. But I go in and out. What I mean by that is sometimes I'm in so deep that I don't remember anything, and then sometimes I'll like, I guess, kind of energetically peer in. I don't know. It's weird, but I was feeling a lot of